Welcome to the CareerMetis Podcast. I'm your host, Nisar Ahmed. I am the founder and editor of the blog CareerMetis.com. And this is episode 32 of the CareerMetis Podcast. And this episode is part of the A Day in the Life of series. In each of these episodes in this series, I will be conducting interviews with individuals from a particular career or line of work. And for today's episode, I am speaking with a project management professional. And our guest's name is Bill Dow. And Bill will be sharing his experience, how he got started in this profession, where he stands today, some of the benefits, some of the challenges of the job or career itself. So let's welcome Bill. Bill, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate being here.
Wonderful, Bill. So before we begin, I would like to hear a little bit about yourself. Before I get into the questions about in depth about the role or what do you do, why don't you start us off with just quickly introducing yourself so we can get acquainted who you are?
Sure, that'd be great. So as you said, my name is Bill Dow. I have 26 years of hands-on PMO and project management experience. I started my project in 1991, was my first project I managed, where we never had the tools, we never had the internet, and we really didn't have the knowledge in the industry that we have today. I'm a 3-time author of PMO and project management books, and considered an expert by PMI in the project management space. Can I give you my titles?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. So it's Project Management Communication Bible, the Project Management Communication Tools, which I released last year, and the Tactical Guide for Building a PMO. And all three of them are available on Amazon, except the Communication Bible is a little bit harder to find these days, just simply because it was built back in 2008. So the Project Management Communication Tools is the next version of that.
Perfect. So thanks for that introduction, and I was excited to interview you because your depth of experience, and you're a published author.
Yeah.
So I don't think I could have got anybody else who would be able to talk about the profession in detail. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
One personal question, Bill.
Sure.
Before we move on, can you tell us where you're calling from?
Yeah, Seattle, Washington. Yeah, so I'm out on the west coast of the United States, so Seattle, Vancouver area.
Perfect. And I think most people listening to this know Seattle as the city where Microsoft, Starbucks, Costco, and even Amazon believe started. So I think that someone like me who's never been there, that's my understanding of Seattle.
Yeah.
I think most people would know that as well. But can you share with us an interesting fact about Seattle that most people do not know unless they have visited?
Sure. Yeah. The first ever Starbucks is right at Pine Lake. Or Pike Place. Sorry, Pike Place. So the first ever Starbucks store is right across from Pike Place Market, and it is literally packed on a daily basis. And so a lot of people go to that store just because it's the first ever store. But like you said, Microsoft's here, Amazon's here, Starbucks here. It really is a hub, an IT hub, kind of Silicon Valley North, if you would. So there's a ton of IT types of jobs here.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that tidbit.
Yeah.
So, Bill, let's move on with the questions. The first question I have is, I'm very curious to hear your journey, how you came about becoming a project manager.
Sure. Yeah, so we actually, in our industry, we have a thing called the accidental project manager. I'm sure many industries have that, but that's exactly how I started. Basically, I was working in the government of British Columbia, in Victoria. I was on a project. I was a business analyst, working the business analyst role, and I literally said, hey, we need to find a project manager. And my manager said, hey, you just do it. And so I kind of stumbled into the role. And so that, as I said, that was 1991. I didn't have a lot of, I really had no project management experience per se. But from that time, it took about 9 years, and then I ended up getting my PMP certification. So in a 9-year stretch of actually hands-on project management, I then decided to step up and take that PMP. So I have about 16 years now of PMP experience. Got certified in 2000. And I really believe it's a critical certification to have, that project management professional from PMI.
And just a follow-up question. So PMI is it that an international certification?
It is, yeah. It's a Project Management Institute. 80% of the certifications out of PMI are the PMP. So if you're a project manager, your journey is to ultimately get the PMP. And then, of course, go to portfolio certification and program management. But ultimately, the PMP is the industry certification that everyone wants to get to.
Okay. Sounds great.
Yeah.
So you mentioned how you got started. I'm curious. You've worked in the industry for many years, 25, 26 years.
Yeah.
What does a typical day-to-day look like? What does a project manager do day in and day out?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's going to really depend on the day, because a project manager's life is not the same day to day by no means. Right? One day you could be doing status all day and really doing executive reports. Another day you could be putting out fires. Another day you could be reporting to your executives. Right? So the great part of this job is no 2 days are the same. And if you're always on top of your project, you're always pushing your project forward. They say that 90% of a project manager's job is communicating. So a good part of your day will be communicating project information and really pushing your project forward, doing status reports, doing issue and risks, doing action logs, project schedules, right, using project or any other scheduling tool. But it's really about pushing your project forward and opening the doors and helping your team members execute what they have to execute to get the job done.
It sounds like it's multifaceted. It's not like
it is.
Okay, I think that sounds very exciting.
Yeah, and if you're a brand new project manager trying to figure out what a typical day-to-day looks like, it's really hard to describe for that role. But what you do is you step back and you say, well, what do I have to do to move my project forward? That's what a project manager is going to do. So if you're on an IT project and a developer's stuck on something, then you as a project manager, you help that developer move the bar forward, booking meetings, pulling people into rooms. So brand new project managers, I get asked that question all the time. What do I do every day? What do I do every day? And you just have to step back and say, okay, I own this project. How do I move this project forward? That's what you do every day.
That sounds great. So, Bill, you sound very passionate about this, and that's even when we first spoke before this interview. So, of all the things that you do, what do you enjoy most about being a project manager?
Yeah, it's a leadership role, right? And everything is on your shoulders to deliver, right? When a project's in trouble, an executive calls you the project manager. When a project fails, executive calls you a project manager. So what I love about the role is you're the leader of the project, and all the pressure's on your shoulders. So when you deliver a project and everything goes well, there's really no better feeling in the world, because you as a project manager get that accolades as well.
So you sort of like the idea of being, you're steering the project, so you have a lot of say.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds exciting. So
yeah, it really is.
Like any role, Bill, I'm sure every role, every career has things that people enjoy. I wanted to ask the flip question right now. So what are some of the challenges that you or someone else in this role would face?
Yeah. So, in the project management world, one of the challenges you face is influence without authority. And it is a skill that you just have to master. So let me tell a quick story. In my 26 years of business and working in projects, I've worked for 25 of those years with no direct reports on my projects, meaning none of my project team members functionally reported to me. So no asking them to stay late, no asking them to work on the weekend, nothing. Only 1 year in my career as a project manager did I have a team that functionally reported to me. And do you realize how hard that is to get a team to report that doesn't report to you, to work late, to do extra? So it's one of the biggest challenges you face is influence without authority, getting people that don't directly report to you to go that extra mile, to work that extra hour, to, hey, can you log in on the weekend and do that? So that is probably one of the biggest challenges that project managers face in this role.
See, that's an interesting point, because I'm going to ask you a very dumb question here.
Okay.
And for someone, let's say someone listening to this has not heard about project management before.
Okay.
I mean, they've heard of it, but they do not know the details.
Yeah.
So the word manager usually entails, like, the traditional managers always have direct reports.
Right.
So what I'm hearing is a project manager, you're managing the project, but you may not have direct reports.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's
Okay.
and like I said, in 26 years, I only had 1 year of that. Basically, project managers don't ever tend to be functional managers. And when I describe functional managers, I talk about hire, fire, skills, evaluations, performance reviews, that type of thing. Project managers are not those, especially in IT, they don't tend to be that functional manager.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Now, you've shared some of your personal experience so far. That is great. So now I'm going to ask you questions from the eyes of someone, let's say, wanting to get into this field.
Yeah.
So the next question I have is, how does one go about becoming a project manager?
Yeah, great question. I get to ask this a lot. I teach locally in the Seattle area project management, and I have a ton of students that come up to me and have come up to me over the years and ask me this exact question. So I always say to them, there's really the best way is through education and through experience. So what I tend to say is, hey, get a role as a coordinator, right? Work alongside a project manager. Get your experience, get your feet wet in the industry, and then start taking some PMI-based training and get your CAPM, CAPM, or your PMP. And so a CAPM is basically a brand new person that wants to get into project management. Well, PMI has offered this CAPM certification that really is a junior level person that wants to get into the project management industry. A PMP, project manager professional, that certification takes much more experience and much more background. And so when you say, hey, how do I become a project manager? I say start as a coordinator. Start working alongside a senior project manager. And then you'll learn that role, you'll learn that, you'll get your feet wet, and then you could actually start getting your certification and then become a project manager, get larger projects, tougher projects, that type of thing. So we have a great entry point called a project coordinator role, and they're out there. There's tons of project coordinator roles out there.
Sounds great. So, Bill, now you mentioned a few things about certifications,
Yep.
and that just shows that you're professional, you've got all the necessary certifications. How about degree? Is there a minimum qualification, like a technical degree, a STEM degree, to become a project manager?
Yeah, not in IT specifically, but yes, in construction. So construction project management, you basically get a construction degree, and yes, so construction and IT are radically different projects. And yes, if you were going to get into construction, you have to get construction. I'm not sure if it's construction project management or construction something, but yes, the construction industry is quite different. So IT project compared to building a bridge or a skyscraper, completely. Construction management, I think it's called. Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Thanks for clarifying that. So the next question, you've already touched on this. You mentioned that project coordinator is the first way. What does the ideal career path look like? Let's say someone gets started today in the path that you have mentioned.
Yeah.
What does the future look like for them for the next 5 to 10 years?
I see there's three paths. There's an accidental project manager who becomes a project manager, who becomes a senior project manager, a PMO leader, a director of PMO, and a VP of PMO. There's a project coordinator who becomes a project manager, a senior project manager, a PMO leader, director of PMO, and then there's a business analyst who becomes a project manager, senior project manager, PMO leader. So there's really kind of three paths and three ways that people can get into and then just move their career along, or ultimately getting to like a VP, a project manager, or a PMO, right? And so we have a great career path in about 5 or 6 different phases or steps through your career.
Okay, so that actually sounds interesting and exciting because you're not stuck in one path.
No.
You can choose the path that's available. That's actually encouraging to hear.
Yeah. So a junior project manager would have a much smaller project than a senior project manager. And then once you've done the senior project manager for many, many years, you then move to a PMO leader. Right? Hey, I've done this project management stuff. I know it inside out. Well, now I'm going to run a project management office and have project managers report to me. And then you do that for a while, and then you go, I'm going to move to a director of PMO where you have maybe multiple PMOs. So you do have this great progression and this great career path that you can move within this role.
Sounds great. So, Bill, so now we have covered the path. We have covered what everything looks like. One of the final questions I have is, what advice will you give to someone who wants to get into this field today?
So again, I think we touched upon it briefly. If you want to get in the field, start as a project coordinator. A project coordinator tends to be a little bit less experienced, a little less pay. But start working with consulting companies, contracting companies, vendor companies, and say, hey, I'm looking to get into this industry, and I want to start as a project coordinator. I actually have a quick story. I was running a PMO, and I hired 2 project coordinators, and they were inexpensive. They were basically right out of school, but they wanted to learn the project management industry. And so I gave them 2 of those folks, and they've now become full-time employees doing some project management. And so that is absolutely the best way, is get yourself attached to a project manager in a project coordinator role and learn the industry, whatever industry it is.
Sounds great. Oh, actually, going back, you mentioned the word industry. So this is a question I have. So let's say someone becomes a project manager in the IT field, technology field.
Yeah.
Does that mean that they are sticking to technology throughout their career, or are those skills transferable? Let's say they decided to move into engineering project. Is that possible at all, or
tough? It's very, very tough. Yeah, it's tough. Because you think about how complicated building a bridge or a skyscraper would be. So you're doing some IT projects and like an HR system or a finance system, and you've got that, one project, one little world, and then you move to building a bridge or building a skyscraper. It would never happen. You would have to step back, go into school, learn that industry, and then make your way up again. So no, for example, 26 years in IT, I could not go build a bridge. I have highest respect for the project managers in that world because it's completely different. I have no idea how long concrete dries or how to do electrical or that kind of thing. And so that's the construction management side. But I could go to research, I could go to marketing, I could go to various other fields. You just can't make that move to construction very easily.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. I just wanted to get that clear. I think that makes total sense. I think the goal is to create a domain authority within a particular industry. So that makes sense. I think that those are the list of questions I had. I think you've done a great job of answering all, clarifying all the questions. After listening to this, Bill, if someone wanted to get in touch with you and ask you more follow-up questions or learn more about yourself, what is the best way to reach you, or what are some of the best ways to reach you?
Yeah, so I've got a website, so www.BillDowPMP.com, and my email is the exact same, BillDow@BillDowPMP.com. So I'd love for folks to come and check me out there and contact me directly.
Perfect. And what I will do is I'll make sure I'll add the website, the books you mentioned, and also the email in case people wanted to reach out to you. So thank you very much, Bill.
Yeah, thank you.
Bill, this has been great, educational for myself and anybody else listening to this as well. You've really given us a thorough understanding about the project management field. Thanks for sharing your wisdom.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks, folks, for listening to this episode of the CareerMetis Podcast. I have written a brief summary of the interview as part of the blog post on the website, CareerMetis.com. If you liked what you heard, feel free to subscribe to the podcast. It's called the CareerMetis Podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. And for more content, ideas, tips, and resources, go to the website, CareerMetis.com. If you enjoyed this episode and also learned something new, feel free to post a comment. And if you really loved it, definitely go ahead and share this episode with your network. Until next time, this is Nisar Ahmed, your host for the CareerMetis Podcast. Thank you.